Hello again. All right, today we are stepping back into the world of frontiers. Um, okay, good. Good to hear. I fixed a couple of little things after our last stream where we were working on Behemoth. Can't hear me? Well, now I'm getting conflicting reports. Anti-human saying he can't hear me. Kyosho saying audio is good. I don't know what to believe. My levels are good. Anti-human, I choose to believe that it's your problem. I'm sorry. It's you, not me. Um, All right, so I'm gonna forge ahead, and you'll have to lip read me on your phone. I'm sorry. Um, okay, so since the last stream, I've done a couple of little fixes, but I've stayed away from Behemoth. I'm sort of been saving that for the stream, and so we're just gonna jump right in to where we left off last time, which was we'd fixed the mission scripts so that the mission didn't autocomplete when you started the game, or when you activated the mission. That's been pushed to early access, by the way, so people who are now playing the game for the first time or starting new missions for the first time, they won't have to, throw up their arms in confusion when they autocomplete. Thank goodness. Okay. And again, just like last time, I'm keeping a little chat plugin open, but I'm only checking the chat once in a while. So even though chat will be on screen for the archives, I won't be seeing it unless this window's popped up. So feel free to ask questions. They'll accumulate. I'll answer them periodically. Okay, I'm loading Behemoth from scratch, and I'm just gonna start the mission and just see what happens. We will inevitably run into some bugs, and we'll just fix them as they come. I feel like introducing what I'm doing every time is getting a little old. It's kind of like that, when you fill out your credit card information and you're supposed to enter the little three-digit number on the back of your card, and there's still that question mark saying, "What's this?" Like at some point you've got to just take the question mark away and say, "All right, people know what's going on with those little three numbers. You don't need to explain it. Like if they don't know by now, they shouldn't be using a credit card online." I'm wondering what the threshold for explaining what I'm up to on this stream is. Like, is it going to be a couple weeks, a couple months before I no longer have to introduce everything? I don't know. All right, so we're starting this mission from scratch. Okay, now you've heard or read all of that a dozen times by now. But from this point forward, it's going to start being new. All right, I'm going to I'll head up to Dunsford, see if there's anything I can do. The hunter gives you a sour smile. Don't let me stand in your way then. Suicide is every woman's prerogative. Good luck to you. Oh, I forgot I'm playing as a woman this time. All right, so I know where Dunsford is. I'm just going to go there. Here's our Behemoth mission. Investigate unusual events in Black Lake. So that's pretty open-ended. I could always edit in introductions to the videos later, assuming they get posted to YouTube. They do get posted to YouTube, but it's an automated process with no editing involved, which is pretty much the way I have to handle it in order to do it in a timely manner. I don't know. I'll just suck it up and introduce things. Speaking of which, if you've never seen this stream before, right now I'm playing the game Frontiers. It's an open world RPG made in Unity. It's out on early access and it's buggy. And so on these streams, I'm fixing the bugs. And today I'm fixing bugs in a mission that has been largely neglected because um, it's it's sort of a side quest, but not really a side quest. Most of the events that take place during the mission are tangential to the main quest, but there's one character in it who's important to the main quest. So all the tangential events have been sort of neglected, and I'm trying to play it through and sort of get it up to the level that the main quests are working. So this is Dunsford. It's a tiny town. Where are we? Yeah, here's Black Lake. Here's where we just came from. There's the hunter's cabin where we just spoke to the guy. And here's Dunsford. Although we're not seeing... I might not be in the city proper yet. Temporary city. Dunsford isn't showing up, but the temporary city is showing up. That's funny. Yeah, and in Dunsford you have sort of a refugee situation, topical, where all the people who've been flooded out of these homes over here in Black Lake, um, I'm pointing to the screen like that's going to matter. All the people who've been flooded out of their homes over here and over here, Judgment and Salvation, they've had to sort of migrate up here to get out of the way of the Leviathan and the water. So this is their sort of shanty town. By the way, the game typically looks better than this. Again, with the introductions, I have to turn the detail and quality levels way down to play this in the Unity editor with its overhead without crashing frequently. So don't judge it by what you're seeing here. It's not a great looking game, but it does look better than this. Okay, so here we've got our refugees and our tent city and everything. And yeah, temporary city. It's kind of an odd name. I should come up with something a little bit better than that. And in here, I'm just going to talk to everybody. Things keep going from bad to worse around here. I think the mayor would... I wish the mayor would run those refugees out of town. Spare a coin or two? We've lost our homes, our livelihoods, even our families. Now, of course, all of our NPCs look almost identical because I've disabled the face swapping and I don't think I've programmed them to look gross here. You can have them wear a dirty uniform. These guys should really look dirty and filthy, like they have no place to live. And the people who are standing outside judging them should look fine. But I'm not going to call that a bug. I'm just going to put that on the to-do and worry about it later. Okay, so here's Gosgin. Here's one of our main characters. We have a DTS override. Gosgin, Inc., Act 2, Behemoth DTS 01. All right, so that's our first bug. We should be seeing some dialogue there. I figure your high umlar thing should suffice for new viewers. Oh, but I like the eyeless people. You don't find them incredibly creepy? All right, let's go to our import first and see what's going on with this character's dialogue. Gosgin. All right, according to our debug log, Gosgin, Inc., Act 2, Behemoth DTS 01. So this is what we're sending him. Sorry, I can't really chat right now. Talk to Mayor just if you need anything. Okay, that should be fine. Let's see how it imported. Oh no, that's imported into speeches, not conversations. Gosgin, okay. Sorry, I can't chat right now. Talk to Mayor just if you need anything. Okay. What's the problem? This looks like it's formatted correctly, and yet when I talk to him, nothing shows up. I mean, I'm not losing my mind, right? These guys did talk, so there's nothing wrong with the speech system. And yet, in his case, something's wrong. Let's open up Mono Develop. All right, here's our talkative script. This is a world item script which is attached to the character. I'm going to, okay, so here is the Gosgin world item. And again, a world item is like a souped up game object. It just has a couple more capabilities. All right, so character, container, fill stack container, he's flammable. He's talkative, damageable, motile, he's a listener, and he has wearables. Okay, talkative. What's going on with you, buddy? Our conversation name is Behemoth01, but we have a DTS speech name, and DTS is direct to screen, and we're defaulting to that DTS. We have the DTS override. So why isn't it working? Let me refresh my memory here and make sure I know for sure that that DTS speech is in fact formatted correctly. Well, we have a lot of Vanessas in here. A lot of Vanessas. What's going on there with our naming? That must have something to do with the too many Vanessas in Dunsford. Just too many Vanessas. We have a name system that pulls names from a pool based on flags set on the city, and so I must have set the flags wrong. And we're only pulling Vanessas. Okay, so now that makes it trickier to find exactly. Oh, see, the person we want to talk to is a Marie. Okay, so I'm going to look at Citizen Enc Behemoth DTS 01. I'm going to look at its format just to refresh my memory and make sure that I'm not wrong about how it's supposed to be formatted. Obviously, this is working correctly. Oh, maybe it's a start stop. That's interesting. All right, I don't see a start stop statement here in this DTS. I thought the start stop was a standard thing for all speeches. I'm going to remove that. I'm going to remove it from both the import file so it doesn't happen again and from this actual conversation. Now let's try speaking to Gosgin again. Should pull up that speech just fine because we don't save speeches, so it won't be saved in my save file. Right? Right? I better verify that too. Profiles, Railboy, Frontiers, live game. No, we do save speeches. Okay. But is his speech saved? No, it's not. Let's see if you guys have spotted anything. Hello. Hello, everyone. Hello, Mr. Miyagi. And Dungeon Ninja the Epic. It's quite the name. Actress26, thanks for the follow. All right. Well, aha. I just noticed something. Our DTS override isn't correct. We're not loading the correct conversation here. So I have him set wrong. So that start stop may very well have been fine. I'm going to put it back. And then I'm going to just put the right DTS override name. I'm just going to slap it right in there. Okay, so there was an Act 2 hiding in there, in that name that was incorrect. So I need to track down where exactly that came from, if I set it manually or if it came from a conversation. Okay, all right, so that Act 2 came back. We're narrowing it down here, narrowing it down. I'll explain what's going on. I want to donate for Frontiers. Awesome game, little buggy, but he's on a good way. Well, thanks. Yeah, it's a little buggy. It is a little buggy, as you can see. Oh, I don't have a donate button actually, but there are links to the Steam store pages for all the games I'm working on. If you want to donate, do that because all of that revenue gets distributed to all the people who worked on it, and it helps. It just helps us out in a big way. So, and if you already own all the games, you've done all you can, and I appreciate it. We'll add dragons. Um, no, we don't have dragons in this world. We have sort of, I guess you could call them sea dragons. They're leviathans, and you might be seeing them later. But no, there won't be any dragons. This isn't a fantasy world. It's not high fantasy. It's sort of more of a fantasy sci-fi. Okay, so let me explain what's going on because this picture is starting to come into focus. Now, what happens here is we have a conversation set for Gosgin, Gosgin Enk Behemoth 01. And that conversation is here. Gosgin Enk Behemoth 01. That is loading just fine. I'm going to delete this DTS speech name entirely so you'll see this in action. I'm getting the conversation by name from the conversations manager. Okay. And what happens in conversations is there's a substitution system. And what that means is that you can set a character to use one conversation, conversation 001, whatever, to use that conversation at the beginning of his lifetime. And then when the player has a certain exchange with him, I might as well open this up right now. Um, I'm looking for one of these tags that has the exchange set. Well, whatever. I'll just explain it. You'll understand. We put a little tag in the conversation that says substitute, 002. And so the next time you talk to that character, the conversation name is still set to 001, but it creates like a daisy chain where um, when you look for that conversation and you load that conversation state, the conversation says, oh no, I've been replaced by 001, so go to that one next. Um, and we did that to make it easier to save the state of a character's conversation because the character itself is kind of stateless. The character creates data that gets stored in all these different places in the game, but the actual character object himself, he doesn't store his state in the way that other objects do. Um, because characters can get loaded and unloaded and moved over here and moved over there, and so we didn't want to save the state the way we do like a barrel or something. So that information is kept in the conversation state. When we load that conversation state, the first thing we look for is DTS overrides. If the conversation has been set to have a direct to screen override where you don't converse with them, it just puts up a little blurb. Um, and then after that, if there's no DTS override, we look for conversation substitutions. And what's happening here is we're getting the conversation that's succeeding. We're setting the DTS override in the process. And uh, because there is a DTS override, we're returning false. We're saying, okay, we got the conversation, but we're not going to start this conversation. This DTS override gets set, and then we start the speech with a DTS. And what's happening is this character's DTS name, default to DTS, is set incorrectly. There's an Act 2 in here, which should not exist. Now I have a to-do in here. That's interesting. We'll see what that is. I'm a game developer also. That's cool. Talking about CSGO ranks. You guys are making me feel old. I played CS. Oh yeah. Way back in 1999. That was pretty good. Okay. So now the question is, which do we fix? Do we fix the file name or do we do we fix it in here? I'm kind of tempted to fix it in here because I'm seeing a lot of, boy, this is funny. We're thwarting conventions here. Oh, I understand what happened. Do you remember how I was saying earlier how this is a side quest with a main quest character, but most of what happens is a side quest? Well, we have two naming conventions for quests. If it's a main quest, you include the act number, act 1, 2, or 3, in the quest. If it's a side quest, for instance, My Bonnie Lass, then you don't include the act number because it's not part of the act structure. Behemoth originally started as completely as a side quest, and then we brought this main character into it. And so it's using side quest naming conventions in its files, and that's not carrying over into the dialogue. So I'm gonna keep the naming conventions because pretty much all the files are not going to include the act name. So I'm just going to fix that here. I'm going to remove the default to DTS. I'm going to remove the act number from here instead of adding it to the file name. Let me just quickly breeze through this and make sure I don't see any other obvious DTS problems. Okay, saving that. Hello, Mr. Cryptic YT. I played CS back then too, but TFC was my preferred game. TFC was awesome. I forget, is Frontiers going to have modding capability? Because you're explaining a lot which could be useful. Yes, the whole reason why this is all broken out into files like this and it's all easy to edit with a notepad, etc., is because from the very beginning I wanted to make it as moddable as possible. So yes, it's moddable through and through. The only thing that is still tough to mod are character models, the actual 3D models. But um, the textures for the characters are all moddable right out of the box. And I'm sure someone's going to come up with some kind of tool that lets you noodle with things. Yeah, Unity's good. I wouldn't use it for a game like this ever again, but I've used it for all my subsequent games, and I like it a lot. It is a powerful engine, no matter how much you complain about it. Okay, so I am going to save here, and then I'm going to quickly re-import that conversation so that our changes, oh, I shouldn't have closed that, so that our changes carry through into the game. I'll re-import the conversation and then delete the relevant save files so that it propagates to my game. Import conversation behemoth. Okay, so that should import conversations with a file name mask behemoth, so it shouldn't take 10 years to import it. We have a lot of dialogue in this game. A lot of dialogue. Okay, good. That's done. Now I'm going to clean up my save game files just to make sure that um, the old conversations don't carry through. Okay, we're going to keep the 100. Okay, Gosgin, we're going to delete his conversation, so it will be as though we've never spoken to him. And then I will check to make sure. Yeah, good. We're good. All right, I'm going to load again. And unless I forgot something really obvious, when we speak to Gosgin, we should get this DTS override, which should put this on the screen. Yeah, I actually agree. MonoDevelop kind of blows. Um, Last time I talked about why I don't have uh, VS installed. It's just a huge installation, and it gets its tentacles into everything. And I'm not like a hardcore programmer. I like simple, lightweight tools. So even though I'm not a fan of MonoDevelop in general, I'm happy to use it because it's lightweight. Um, but yes, I will agree that VS is the superior tool if your focus is primarily in programming. Okay. Well, look at that. He got named Joe. All right, Gosgin. Yay! Sorry, I can't really chat right now. Boy, that DTS time is not very long. Hold on. On-screen text fade speed. Let's turn that way up. Sorry, I can't really chat right now. Talk to Mayor Just if you need anything. Okay. So there's a bug fixed. Feeling good. We're on a roll. Why such low res textures? I'm working in the Unity editor, and if I, just real briefly, just for the hell of it, let me turn up the texture resolution. Turn on shadows. I'm at 8 threads textures. We'll turn on bloom. Let's go nuts. This is what it looks like normally. See, so it's not nearly as ugly as it looks when I'm editing. We got some pigs, we got some nice rocks. We got some lights. Oop, I just stole their light. Yeah, but if I keep that on for too long, I'll turn it down to quarter res. If we crash, you guys can handle it. Is he using PBR? No. This is Unity 4.7, not Unity 5. So, no, not using PBR. Not using any fancy shaders except where I specifically need them. Yeah, I currently have both 2012 and 2015 installed, and it's making me cringe a bit. It's a huge installation, man. I don't understand why it needs that much stuff. Um, oops. You might have noticed that I'm pulling up the start menu all the time. It's because I have the mouse gone, and just have this habit of instead of hitting escape to pull up my cursor so that I can look at the messages, I hit the Windows key. I don't know when that started, but I'm trying to break the habit. So if you see me do it, scream at me. Why didn't I upgrade? Well, I tried to upgrade actually. As a side project, I brought everything into Unity 5 just to see what would happen. The thing exploded. It's not a totally clean upgrade, especially when you're using as many like kludgy tricks as I am to get things to run faster. Because Unity is not made for an open world game. It's just not. And so there's all sorts of 4x engine things that I'm doing to keep it running at a reasonable rate. Now we're getting a lot of Alexas. Yeah, and Unity 5 has its problems too. Like you get some benefits, but on the whole, um, for a game like this, you don't get enough benefits to make it worth it. For a game like Euclidean or Felt Tip Circus, huge benefits. But for Frontiers, I'm not going for photorealism. I don't need a lot of the features that they have. All right, now, if I recall correctly, Mare just should be spawning here in this sort of main area, and he shouldn't look like a normal peasant. I'm seeing some Alexias here. Okay, they're refugees. Alexia O'Leary. Sorry, I can't really chat. I have a dozen more people to take care of. Okay, so something's gone wrong with spawning the mayor. So that'll be the next thing I investigate. He should be right here, and I should be able to talk to him about what's going on. So I'm going to open up that scene, and we're going to see what we can see. The upgrade broke my games too. Yeah, to give Unity credit, I'm glad they did a nice clean break. I'm glad they changed the API. I'm glad they didn't try to cater to 4x users, because at some point you've just got to say, we're moving forward and you can stay behind if you want, but we're moving forward. I really appreciate that mentality. So it doesn't bother me at all that that Frontiers is stuck in 4x land. I think it's the way to go. It's the way to handle things. All right, so we're going to load up this particular chunk. Now, the way I save these chunks, all the data is kept in XML files, so I don't really need these scenes that I'm loading here, where I keep all the chunks in individual scenes. But, oh, I'm in the wrong chunk. So Black Lake, it's cut off right there. We need this one right here. So what would that be? Would that be 125? I always get my X and Y mixed up. Yeah, so I could just load up an empty scene and then add a world chunk script and then start loading the scenery bit by bit. But that's a process. It takes a little while. So I've taken to here we are. I've taken to just saving the scenes so that I can open them up and edit them like so. Okay, here is our temporary city. This is all one structure. We have not talked at all about structures and how those are formatted. That is possibly the most complex thing in the game. All right. Well, I'm seeing nodes here. Where are our fellas? Whenever we want to spawn a character, we made the decision early on in this game that maybe spawned underground or something. That's actually possible. That is totally possible. It's hard to get people to spawn at the right spot, especially since I'm enabling and disabling the colliders for the terrain as you get near and far to them. Total noob who knows nothing and talks out of his ass. No, man, just throw it out there. Way more people have been right on this channel than you might think. How many people are working on it? Right now, it's mostly just me. There was a team right after the Kickstarter finished that actually got pretty big, and there were a lot of writers who were working on side quests and stuff. And also, Ryan Spann was doing the main quest. He wrote, I think, I feel like I'm making this up now, but it was over 100,000 words for the main quest. We had a lot of artists who contributed a lot of random art. We had Steve who worked on the music. So right after the Kickstarter, when we had lots of money and I could pay a team, that's what I poured all the money into was paying people to create content. And then once we got all the content put together, then I set to work on what I'm doing now, which was only supposed to take like a few months, but has ended up taking years. So right now it's mainly just me, but that's okay because it's really the only workable way that this kind of schedule could have worked. Um, if if there was still a lot of content to create and not just stuff to make work, I would be boned right now. The game would never see the light of day. But because most of the content in the game is done, and I'm just sort of knitting everything together so that it finally works, I can take my time and I don't have to really spend any more money. Um, so that's really the only reason why the long delayed schedule hasn't made me despair because I know I can pull myself out of it eventually. Okay, so I hope that answered that question. Now, every time we want to spawn a character, we need something called a spawn node, and spawn nodes they perform several um, different functions. Here you can kind of see. Let me load the terrain background so you can see some contrast here. Okay, here are the navigation nodes. These are a version of the spawn/action nodes. Um, Characters can move between these nodes at random. And but if we want to actually spawn a character, we need a more advanced version of it, and I'm not seeing those nodes anywhere. Okay, we've got settler. Here we go. Here we go. Oh, I'm not seeing it because we don't have the gizmo activated. Now we're talking. All right, so here's where we spawn Gosgin. You see, I have a little custom gizmo here. It shows me what the orientation of the spawn node and everything. And oh, do we have overlapping? Oh, look at that. We have overlapping nodes. So it's possible. I'm willing to bet that one of these, at least one of these, is the mayor. He would be a structure owner, so his would be yellow. White, white. Let me turn off these colliders. White. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, he's yellow right there. Okay, so for a second I thought maybe one of the characters has sent the other into the stratosphere through like a horrible intersection. But these guys just look like peons. This guy should be the mayor. Okay, here's the mayor. And here are the action node properties. This is spawning the mayor. He is the structure owner, which is to say if you steal anything from the structure, if you damage the structure, he is the one who receives those messages. So he is the one whose reputation you damage, and he's the one who uh, whose inventory you access when you're stealing things. This project was super ambitious, and I'm not sure anyone can fault you for taking a bit longer than originally expected. I'm still waiting on Kickstarters that started way before yours, and they were linear, much simpler games by comparison. You at least have early access and stuff. I think um, I I've been really grateful with how patient and kind people have been. I think it's okay to hold me a little bit responsible because when I look back, this is the first big project I ever tried. I had never released a game before. And when I look back at my original plans and how overly ambitious I was, it was a little bit stupid on my part. And I think, uh, like, I couldn't have known, but I might have still known a little bit better. Um, I was basing all of my assumptions on my work in VFX, or a lot of my assumptions. And most of those didn't carry over into video games. And I guess what I'm saying is I still feel stupid for trying to tackle something so big my first time out, even though I am really grateful that people are cutting me some slack as I try to finish it. And yeah, early access has helped. It has helped. Okay, so now that's interesting. We don't have a conversation specified for this character. This is our drop down where I can say which conversation he's supposed to have when he starts up. I'm not going to worry about that yet because I can specify it in the character itself. So if the node is here, he's in variant 4. There's a couple things that could be happening. I'm going to type them out in our little to-do. Option, structure, spawn, not set. I'll explain what that means in a minute. Option 2, variant not spawning. Option 3, character not set up correctly. Okay, so I'll briefly explain what I mean by structure spawn. And like I said, structures are probably the most complex thing in the game. So um, if as I'm talking you feel lost, you're not alone. I'm probably lost too. Okay, so the way this works is you have structure templates, which I can use over and over again. Like I have a hotel, right? And in the structure template, you have these action nodes. These are part of the structure. And in these action nodes, I can specify, okay, um, this is going to be a guard spawn, right? So let me go to a structure that isn't actually super specific because this whole structure that you're looking at serves one purpose, and that's to um, spawn this particular building's occupants. Let's go to a really generic building here. This inn should do. So this is a generic inn, and ooh, it's got some grass in there. That's not good. And here we have a couple of action nodes. We have patron 1, 2, 3, settler manager, and patron 4. So these aren't individual characters, right? Um, this isn't like Gosgin or something. This is just a manager, and these are just patrons. And so when I want to use this structure variant, when I use this structure template, excuse me, in this city, I can then specify who I want to spawn in each of those spawn points, right? I can say I want to spawn someone in this spawn point, this spawn point. I want to spawn this innkeeper, right? I don't want to spawn for patron 3 for some reason I decided. So even though the nodes are in there in the template, it doesn't mean I have to make use of them or I have to use exactly the information that they contain. Like I can have an override conversation if I want. You know, I can give them a DTS override. I can use a different template if I want. So that's how that works. You need an action node and then you need a structure spawn, which is what you're looking at here. So the first thing that can go wrong is even though I have an action node in the template, I may not have set the structure spawn in here. So let's see. Okay, this is looking good. I have set the mayor to spawn. He is set to be the owner. I'm using the mayor just template. That's correct. And I have set his conversation here. So that's correct. We can remove that possibility. The next option is that the variant isn't spawning. Now, I know I keep saying it, but this is where it gets really complicated. Um, a structure template isn't all of a piece. You can have variants that spawn or unspawn depending on what the state of a mission is or something. So the first time you visit this city, let's see if we're on board here. I think a lot of us went in expecting a fairly long development. I think that's probably true. For a game of this style, I can't imagine a way it could be quick unless you go for complete random generation. Well, that's what I originally went with, um, but to do that right is even more difficult. Um, can I just say how much I appreciate that your buildings are actually in the world, not a separate cell? Oh, I'm so glad people appreciate that. Every time someone tells me they appreciate that, it's so good to hear because that, more than anything else with the open world design, has caused so many headaches in terms of, out of memory errors and getting the format of the structures correct and generating the meshes at runtime because we can't just spawn each of these individual meshes. We have to combine them. It has to be done in a separate thread, but Unity doesn't like multi-threading, and on and on and on. So every time I read a review or watch somebody's playthrough and they say, "Oh, that's cool," you just walk right into the buildings. I say, "Yes, thank God, it was worth it." Um, yeah, because that was tricky. That was tricky. Okay, so each structure template um, can have up to 9 variants, and I just picked that number arbitrarily. And the purpose of a variant, like I said, is to change what's going on inside the structure depending on what's going on outside in the world. So uh, I have to specify which variants to use under which circumstances, and that is as easy to screw up as the uh, structure spawns. So what I will look at here is here we have 2 variants that are set up to spawn. Or not 2 variants. See, I'm getting my terminology confused. We have 2 different possible states that this structure can spawn in, and each of those states can contain multiple variants. So in this case, in the default state, when nothing's going on, you use the base, which I presume is the doesn't have a lot in it, does it? Whatever. Normally that contains like uh, the structure pieces. You have the base, you have the animal dens, okay? So that's like pigs and chickens and things. I've put those in a separate variant. You have the refugees, that's in variant 2, so I've got all those to spawn, and I've given them all uh, refugee DTS. And then I've got the mayor and I got the engineer. So this is before Behemoth is active. This is before anything is going on. This is just when it's default across the board. Then I have this state here. When Behemoth is active, right, which would have been the case when he went there, um, and escort Gosgin to dam is active, and escort Gosgin to dam is not completed, Okay, in this case, we're not spawning Gosgin because we're supposed to be escorting him to the dam. So in this case, even though we're spawning variant 4, we've shut off this particular action node. We're saying we don't want to spawn him in this case because he's supposed to be gone. Okay, so that all makes sense. So I spoke too soon when I said earlier that this would have been the situation when we talked to the mayor. It would have been this situation because I was ignoring these conditions. So this is the situation where um, that we should have seen earlier. So everything looks set up correctly. This variant is definitely selected. The mayor is definitely selected. Okay, so it's not that. I'll say variant. It still could be not spawning for some reason, so I'll leave that there. Character is not set up correctly. Okay, while we're here, I will look at the characters manager and look at the characters template and just make sure that I haven't set something wrong, because if I have, he won't spawn. Okay, so here's a list of our non-generic characters. Here's Mayor Just. Okay, he has a body name, he has a face, has all of this stuff. Template name. Well, that shouldn't matter. No, that doesn't matter. I mean, at a glance, everything looks fine. Normally what happens is like this is not set, or the body isn't set, so it doesn't have anything to spawn. Gender female, that's not right. I think he's supposed to be male. Oh, these flags are almost all set to nothing. Wait. I'm getting confused. He's not a generic character. He's a specific character, so the flags don't matter. Okay, so everything looks fine at a glance. Well, that's not right. You should not have that conversation. It won't matter because it'll be overrided, but I'll just take that conversation out of the character template anyway. These are all the different states for the different world item scripts that can get loaded onto the character. For instance, damageable, I could make Mayor Gosgin, super buff if I wanted. Um, yeah, he looks fine. Unique primary. Yeah, he's fine. Okay, everything seems fine. I'll save that just because I changed that character's conversation default, but looking at your custom inspector for that is making me want to take this Sunday to learn the syntax for writing some of my own stuff. It's super easy, actually. Um, it's I have custom editors like crazy, and they're so handy. There's no way I could. There's no way I could manage all this stuff without it. Like, here's my world items editor for like editing containers and categories and things. I mean, it's just so much easier when you're working with custom editors, and it's really not that hard to do. Anyone know if there's a game out there that's like the Elder Scrolls but for sci-fi? Not Fallout. I was going to say Fallout. Far future. I don't know of one actually. I feel like I should. There's something kind of tickling my memory, but um, unless you're talking about something with space battles, like Eve or whatever, which isn't, it's not what you're asking for. I don't see a lot of far future sci-fi stuff. All right, so I haven't exactly ruled all these out. I ruled out the first one, the structure spawn was set, but these guys are all still kind of possibilities. Ah, screw it. I'm going to get rid of the characters not set up because that looked fine. So the variant is not spawning, the variant is not set up correctly, or respawning underground. I'm going to save this structure template because I did fix these two guys being stuck on top of one another. So did you save? Oh, I hate that message. Yeah, okay, you saved. All right, so I saved that structure. I'm gonna go back to startup. We're gonna load it again. This time we'll check for the mayor under the floor, and we'll see what happens. I didn't like Outcast. I remember when it came out, um, there was a lot of hype about the voxels, and I like voxels. I think they're cool. But I remember feeling like the hero was kind of bland, and for some reason I didn't like the developers. I know that sounds weird, but the way the developers are trying to sell me on the game, like, oh, our hero he's like a new Robert Redford or something, and I thought that's so clunky the way you're trying to sell me on this, and it really turned me off to the whole thing. And then when I actually played the game, I was willing to give it a fair shake. It just felt kind of boring, and I sort of wrote it off as a fun little voxel experiment. So it kind of blew my mind when, like, 10 years later, I start seeing people referring to it as a classic and saying, "Oh, let's bring back Outcast in HD." I'm like, did like people cared about that thing? That's so weird. I really thought it was gonna, you know, it was just gonna disappear like so many other games uh, that do like kind of one thing cool, but not a lot else. But I guess I'm in the minority there. Deus Ex, that's what I was trying to think of. Deus Ex. Still not quite what you're thinking of because that's not far future. But I really like the Deus Ex games, and I like Human Revolution. Sue me if you're a fan of the original. Human Revolution was tops. Okay, so those guys are all right. All right, let's look for our nodes. We'll just make sure that this. Yeah, okay, we have. Look at that, it's spawning correctly. The node is spawning correctly, so he exists, or the node exists rather. Okay. Let's look at what this structure has spawned. Now, I honestly don't remember which interior variant he spawned in. I believe it was 4. Am I right about that? Maybe someone who was watching closely. JR Can, Junior Con. What a blank. I actually agree with you, but I've got friends who love it. I've played a bit with the new version and it's neat. And actually, I should give it another shot because if people are saying there's something to it, then it's entirely possible I just missed whatever it was at the time. Um, so I'll give it another shot. And yeah, I'm definitely excited for the new Deus Ex. I mean, I hope they don't consoleize it. I feel like Human Revolution consoleized it about as much as you can without losing sort of the core. I hope they don't take it further. I hope they keep it right about the same because it was a really cool, um, almost casual RPG. I do think there's a place for those, and I liked how far they took it. They took it just far enough into casual for me to have just like a nice relaxed time playing it. It wasn't like System Shock 2, which I love more really than Human Revolution, where it was so detailed and you had to do so much thinking. Um, those games have their place too, but I really liked, it was a little more loose and I enjoyed playing it. Um, yeah, so I I could swear it was interior variant 4 in which the mayor was located. Make you game? This is game. Yes, it's a game. This is a game called Frontiers. Um, Gosgin spawning there. All right. We're going to go into debug mode here, turn off my custom editor, and actually look at all the properties for the structure and see what has spawned and what hasn't. Now, in here somewhere, in the state, okay, it should have a list. Interior characters spawned. Oh, right. Without my custom editor, it's a little hard to interpret. I always forget about that. Okay, but we can look at this. Where in this list is Mayor Just? I don't see him. There's Gosgin, there's the guard, there's the settler. Oh, oh, that's right. He's the structure owner. He will be in the owner spawn. Mayor Just, there he is. Interior. He's not empty. Exterior characters have been spawned. I'm just looking through all the flags that sort of keep track of what the state of the structure is and tell me what has spawned and what hasn't. It's not super, super descriptive, but it's enough to at least let me know that nothing went wrong. Interior characters have spawned for all of these variants. Now that's interesting. This is a list, but I shouldn't be seeing duplicates in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't really hurt anything, but because all I do is search this list for these indexes, but it shouldn't really be doing that, so. Okay. Structure owner, none. This character would be set if the structure owner had been spawned. So, what does that mean? Boy, oh boy. Do you remember last time when I said, I hope this doesn't have anything to do with the conversations because conversations are complicated and I don't really want to get into them on the stream. Well, now I'm having the same feeling about structures. It looks like we've got a structure bug where the owner of a structure is not being loaded despite everything else seeming fine. The interior is loaded, which means it's loaded the exterior and the exterior. Um, all of the interior variants appear to be loaded just fine. All of the other characters are loaded just fine, and yet the structure owner is not loaded. So, I guess it's time to get into that shit. Man. Oh wait, what's this? What's this? I think I found it. Use generic template. We're not using a generic template. We are not using a generic template. We are using a character template. Okay. Phew. There are two kinds of character templates. There's a generic template, which is for like guard, patron, settler, student, right? Where there's no particular, there's no like plot character attached to them, and you just use those every time you want to fill out the crowd. And when you want to spawn a particular character, like the mayor, you don't want to use a generic template because they have additional information. Here I am saying use generic template, and that is not correct. That is not correct. Aha, see, I should have caught it because um, when we're using a generic template, it's green. When we're using a character template, it's red, but I'd forgotten that. So I should have spotted that. I should have spotted that. Okay, so that's our problem. We're using a generic template. The character manager went to look up this generic template and said, Mayor Just is not a generic template. I don't know what you're asking for. And it just failed to spawn him. So I've saved that structure template. We can now go back up to startup. Hopefully that was it. Are you boss? Sure, I'm the boss. Why not? Very bad. Very bad graphics. Semi-pro at work. Indie. Yeah, I'm indie. Who is this guy? Junior Con. I'm asking the questions here. What is this, an interrogation? Yeah, he's obviously a random Twitch server. Welcome to the stream, Junior Con. You're asking the questions I'm not necessarily answering, but welcome to the stream. You make movies, produces? I used to do visual effects. Yeah, don't worry about him, guys. He's harmless. Okay, here we go. I'm really hoping that was it. Because that was a nice, easy, simple. It wasn't even a bug. It was just human error. I love that. I love that. I tell you what, though, it makes me feel bad for anybody playing this quest because we've gone through all the other quests so many times. Yeah, I'm not saying they're all working flawlessly or anything, but characters that you have to speak to do spawn. In this case, it was just one bug after another. What is going on? Oh, right. I didn't clean up the bloody save game. I always forget to clean up the save game. We've got this data infecting my save game here. It's such a bummer because I've been involved in a lot of early access games where every so often they would release a new version and it would break my save games. And I would always say, fuck those guys. How dare they just ruin all my work like that? I can't believe they would invalidate my save games. When I do an early access game, I am going to make it so that you can continue playing no matter what the version, uh, no matter what new versions I release. Okay, here are our nodes. I'm just going to delete all these nodes. Can I do that? Can I delete all those nodes? Will the structure add them? Hold on. Mayor should be in here. Use generic template. I'm just going to set this as false. I'm not going to delete it because that's the one thing we changed. Yeah, so anyway, I came up with a system that let you continue to play with your earlier data, even if new data sort of invalidated it, and I regret it so thoroughly. I so wish I had just made it so that your old save games didn't work, because now whenever I make a change, um, it's like there's this other level of possible errors that you have to check for. You know, did I in fact clean up the save game file so that it's using the latest data? And I might release a fix for a quest or something on early access, and people who are halfway through the quest will say, "Well, it still isn't working." And of course it's still not working because they're using their old data and not the new data that I uploaded. And in order to fix that, I'd have to create like a crazy like diff system, and I just I regret that. Good intentions, but man, I regret it. It didn't turn out the way I wanted. The save games thing. Yeah, I mean, uh, I don't get angry about it anymore because I think, well, it's probably for the best if they just invalidate it. That's what I signed up for. It's probably for the best. All right. Okay. Now, I'm still not seeing him, but I'm not ready to claw my eyes out yet. Use the spawn point. Use generic template is not set to true. So we fixed that. We fixed that. Ah, I guess it's time to jump into the structures anyway. Damn it all. Start adding some debugs. Temporary city. Here's our structure script. And I don't even have all of it expanded, for God's sake. Okay. Spawn structure owner. Let's find him. What are you in a static? Spawn characters. Oh, I've already got a bunch set up. That's nice. Oops. Okay. That's nice. Thank you, Past Lars, for adding some good debug logs. I have a super specific uh, debug thing there. That's funny. I was debugging the main quest earlier. Okay, spawn interior characters. I'll turn that on. Add one here. Owner spawn was empty, or owner spawn interior setting, blah 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 blah, didn't match group setting. Okay, okay, so that's handy. Look at how much information I'm giving myself. Go Lars. All right, I'll just save that. Oh, so sad. This is what happens. That's what happens when you keep the texture up. At this point, the only single-player games to buy early access are ones that I really believe in the project. If I'm wary at all, I'd rather wait than lose my progress. I feel kind of the same way. Um, like I haven't played much Frontiers, even though I have it. I also kind of hate spoilers. Someday I'll marathon the whole thing. Again, I feel the same way. It's part of why I'm not focusing on Act 3 in this dev stream, because I want people who aren't playing it all the way, or who aren't like really deep into it, to be able to watch without too bad spoilers. Behemoth is it's relatively spoiler-free. Yeah, I'm turning the settings way back down. All right, I'm gonna refill my water glass while I'll get the load started, and then gonna refill my water glass, and I'll be right back.